put you in my pocket. Push the button through the hole to lock it. Hold on to you, you're like a treasure. Walk across my hand, it'd be a pleasure. You could come with me. You could come with me. Oh, you're such a sweet little misfit. When your smile falls down, I wanna lift it. Wanna make you better. Wanna run away together.
Beep, boop, boop.
Okay. Hello, Issa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So welcome to D-Listers of History, the podcast about people you probably didn't learn about in school. I'm Fega, and I am your tour guide extraordinaire.
I'm Issa. I'm a thought follower.
A thought follower. I like that.
I'm a thought leader.
I hate the term thought leader.
Exactly. I'm a proud thought follower. I aspire to never lead with my thoughts. If you find yourself referring to me as a thought leader, you should find somebody else.
That's real. We're both very tired.
Yes.
For different reasons. I had to push this back because I didn't tell you what happened, Issa. I was putting groceries away so that I had space to record because that's the sort of life that I lead.
Yes.
And I dropped one of the jars of pasta sauce in my pantry, which is kind of like one of these. It's like one of those under the stair things where you have to like kind of go in it to access everything.
Like is it like Harry Potter's like little house?
Yeah.
Cursed be his name, but you know.
Yeah, but indeed the sort of place he might have lived.
Might have got it.
So I dropped it and it smashed on a bottle of birch beer that was on the floor and it went everywhere and I was like, I am in a rush. And this is now sugar all over my floor, but I think I got it all cleaned up.
Did both the sauce and the birch beer break?
No, the sauce survived. So
okay,
at least
but one down.
Yeah. Well, I'll just have to. It's an excuse to go back to Gettysburg and get more birch beer.
Hey, hell yeah,
it was a good time.
Like Gettysburg, like the battlefield.
Yeah, like the town that's next to the battlefield.
Yeah.
So I love this person we're talking about today. I also love that after doing these two really serious episodes with Labor John, which you should listen to both of them, dear listener, if you haven't yet, which were really serious and really like intense, and I loved them, but this is not that. And I'm so excited to do a not that. So
let's do it.
So this is the Tommy Wiseau of the Gilded Age, Florence Foster Jenkins.
Yes, Florence, the one, the only. There's no one like her.
I love her so much. Yes. And doing this research, I love her even more than I did previously.
Okay, I'm so ready.
So, for people who don't know her, so how I came across Florence Foster Jenkins, when I was in college, which was a couple of years ago, like a couple of decades. It was during the Bush administration, and one of my music theory professors liked to do what he called liberal arts Fridays, where he would just sit us in a circle and complain about George W. Bush the entire class period.
Nice. Someone worthy of many complaints.
Sure, but I was paying him to teach me music theory.
Okay. I see. I'm not sure unless George, maybe in a painting class, but not in a music theory class.
Sure. I mean, I hate music theory, so like I wasn't that upset in the moment. But at any rate, he sometimes would talk about different things. And one of the things he brought up was this recording of Florence Foster Jenkins. And this is how I met her. And she was introduced to me as this, like, isn't it hilarious? Isn't her recording just the funniest thing? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to send you two recordings. One I think you're probably familiar with, but I just want to make sure our listeners are familiar with it too. And this is the Royal Opera House, their recording of the Queen of the Night aria from the Magic Flute.
I've heard this. Yes.
I bet most people who have listened have heard it. They may or may not know what it's called.
If not, get ready.
Yeah. And the singer, I think, is Deanna Damrau. She's great, whoever she is.
Okay.
I don't keep up with the latest and greatest in opera singers.
Here we go. Her dress is beautiful, by the way. If you haven't, like, just imagine sparkly dark swan queen. It's great.
Yeah, I'll put these links somewhere on the social media. This is so weird because I can't hear you. I can't hear the recording. I'm just staring at you.
I love the acting that goes into this too.
Yes.
There she goes. She hits it.
It is a little
there
bit
it is.
Like watching ice skating. Like, are they going to hit the triple axel?
Yes. She got it. And I love seeing it. I've never seen it live before. Like, yeah, anybody after, go and check it out when you have a chance.
Yeah, this is
because it's like it adds a whole other level of drama to it. Like her eyebrows, oh my goodness, these are thin eyebrows going to the back of her head.
And she's a master. She's a master.
Yeah.
Coloratura soprano. Coloratura soprano is so there's all different operatic parts called Fachs and FACH. And I don't know a ton about them. I know there's a lot of politics that go into it because, of course, there are. But coloratura is defined as very, very high and able to move very, very fast. So versus perhaps a lyric soprano is less like the fast runs and stuff and more lyric. I don't have a better word for that.
Interesting.
And this is considered potentially, arguably, one of the hardest arias for coloratura soprano in the opera literature. Now, here is Florence Foster Jenkins singing it.
Hell yeah. Let's hit it.
I sent it to you twice by accident.
Okay, let's do it. Here we go. There she goes. There she goes. There's Florence. Something to note here is that this is really the album title? It was Florence Foster Jenkins, The Glory of the Human Voice.
Yes, that's
impeccable.
Yep.
Impeccable.
I'm also very impressed with her accompanist, who we'll talk about a little bit. Because he's with her.
That is if anybody that takes a lot of skill. Like, for real.
He's changing keys, he's changing tempi, I guess is how you'd say it.
Yes. Yes, Florence.
Oh, that's so intense. I can almost hear it from your headphones.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, needless to say, in terms of the triple axel of opera singing, she did not hit it.
She did not.
She fell. But, with the style and grace that can be afforded to, like, the pink flamingos of opera. This like the, is that what it's called? Pink Flamingos? The Pink Flamingos movie. This is my first thought is that this would be for people excited into any type of drag race. Like this feels like she would be if Drag Race happened, and when was she around?
Like she was born in 1868.
Okay, so if this is like 1880s to 1900 Drag Race, she would have been on Snatch Games 100%.
I think we need to have in the back of our heads what the drag queen name for Florence Foster Jenkins would be. Put a pin in
would
that.
it be? Put a pin on that. Yeah, for sure. Anybody that has ideas, we'd love to hear them.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at that sort of thing. So this is how she was presented to me. Is I was familiar with the original aria, and my theory professor played this, and we all just kind of laughed, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
I learned a lot more about her, though, over time in this. I read a book about her this time, so I learned even more. So she was born Narcissa Florence Foster, July 19th, 1868, in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is just somewhere northwest of us, I think. I don't know. It's like, it's one of those places that's just like, it's out there.
Yeah, got it.
Past City Line Ave, somewhere. Her parents, so her father was a wealthy land-owning lawyer. Okay. And he was so wealthy that apparently he wasn't very good at actually, like, he was a good lawyer, but he, like, wouldn't do his job because he didn't need to. I know, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And her mom was, a wealthy wife at that time. But what's funny about her mom is that she lied about her age several times on several censuses in different ways. So we don't actually know when she was born. Because she didn't want to be considered old.
Oh.
So we don't know when she was born.
That's a new level of denial. But also,
I know, right?
In another way, camp. I'm probably going to ask, this is where I've always this is where I ask the question, because I'll be honest, I don't think I entirely understand the concept of camp. So sometimes I just ask, is this camp? And it's never camp. People are always like, no, Isa, it's not camp. And I'm like, I think this was camp.
I think it's camp.
Yeah.
I think it is. We'll probably get people disagreeing, camp. But I think this is camp.
Yeah. I'm going to consider it camp.
Yeah.
So she obviously comes from a camp mom.
Yes, she does.
And she is there. She's here for it. And I understand it. My mom is camp.
Oh yeah,
and I'm happy to.
I've not actually met your mom.
Oh yeah, but I'm happy to carry on that legacy. I know what it's like. Yeah.
Okay, so she had a younger sister as well. So that's her family. She has rich dad, rich mother in denial about her age, and a younger sister. We don't know that much about Florence Foster Jenkins' story as a child, mostly because she told so many tall tales about her own childhood. So we're not really sure what's true and what's just like made up. I just realized I forgot to put my little spit take thing on. Oh well, it's fine. Sorry, listeners, you're getting all my plosives. I know I forgot something. So she studied the piano, and she claims that she played for President Rutherford B. Hayes.
Okay,
which is unlikely.
Not true. Yeah, probably not true.
Not impossible, but her father probably would not have agreed to that. So
sure.
Not particularly plausible.
Sure.
She attended the Moravian Seminary for Young Ladies in Bethlehem, PA, from September 1881 to March 1882, where she studied the piano extensively. And she wanted to go on and study piano in Europe. And her claim was that her father didn't let her, that she wanted to do this and her father wouldn't pay for it. It's plausible because he was really protective of her, because around that same time, her sister fell ill and died of diphtheria.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's not a ridiculous thought that he might not have been very excited to send his other daughter across the ocean.
Yeah. Man, people were always dying of these diseases back then. Like diphtheria.
Yeah, diphtheria is the one that Balto got famous on, right? I think that's the one that all those kids in Alaska had, and Balto had to carry the medicine. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I have no, I don't. Sometimes
you're giving me this look, and you're like, yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I actually don't know who Balto is.
It was a short-lived Disney movie.
Oh, okay.
that came out when I was a child. Balto is a
And
real
everybody
life
had
dog.
diphtheria?
There were people who had diphtheria. I should do Balto as an episode. Get some dog representation. Balto
He's a
saved a
dog?
bunch of kids. He's a
Do
dog.
the dogs have diphtheria?
No, the dogs saved the children from diphtheria.
Oh, that's great. Can I tell you something? By the way, something really cool that happened today. I was by the Schuylkill River Trail by the great dog park that's over there. And there were these kids from this school. I don't know if it was like a school-led activity or if the kids got together and were like, we want to do this. I have no idea how this happened. It was definitely like during school hours and like, or something. There were adults with them, but it was a huge bunch of kids. I can imagine like 9 to 11 years old, maybe, all with signs for like trans rights and going, trans rights are human rights, trans rights are human rights. And they were just like walking along and walking past the dog park, and they went onto the Schuylkill River Trail, and it was the most wonderful thing ever. And then these two boys at the back of the group said, dog rights are dog rights.
I love children.
Which I love. Oh my God. I was like, off message. I don't, not what you guys, doesn't seem to be what you guys are here for, but not wrong. And it would be, better than saying dog rights are human rights, because that's not true. Dog rights are definitely dog rights. And dogs do have rights.
But they're dog rights, not human
But
rights.
they're dog rights, not human rights. So, not incorrect. But anyway, I loved that. It was great. Why did I get on that topic again?
Oh, because I talked about Balto and he saved a bunch of children from diphtheria. And Balto's a dog.
Yeah.
And so, Florence Foster Jenkins, her daughter, sister, died of diphtheria. And this is wild. Speaking of camp, 10 days, 10 after her sister was buried, Florence Foster Jenkins, at the age of 14,
oh my goodness,
eloped with Frank Jenkins, who is 16 years her senior.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, so how old does that make him? 16 plus 14? I can't do math.
30.
Yeah.
I think. It's 30.
That's odd. Yeah.
The age of consent in Pennsylvania at the time was 10.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's really young.
It is very young.
I don't like that.
Yeah, not a fan. I'm glad we changed that. Good job.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Good job, Pennsylvania.
We didn't used to have that we have now. Thanks, guys.
And the story goes that a year after her marriage, she found out that she had contracted syphilis from her husband. So a little bit about syphilis. I'm going to take a drink of wine and talk about syphilis.
Let's talk about syphilis. That should be the intro to this.
It's actually really important to the story.
Yeah, so it's like, let's talk about syphilis. Yeah.
The more
tell me about
you
it.
know.
The more you know.
By 1900, so this is in her adulthood, 15 to 20% of the adult population had syphilis. But not. Yeah, I know, right?
How many people had syphilis?
15 to 20% of the adult population in the United States.
I had no idea that everyone had syphilis in the 1880s, 90s.
So this is 1900. But
1900.
I'm sure it was bad in the 1890s too. It's 10 whole.
Okay,
years.
Obviously not everybody had syphilis, 15 to 20%, but that's kind of everybody.
A significant minority.
A significant portion of the population had syphilis.
And part of it was because not everyone knew that they carried it. And there were a lot of incorrect ideas about how to avoid syphilis.
Sure.
Because sex ed is important, and they did not have sex ed in schools at that time.
No.
Also, I don't think we knew things. I think we needed to science a little more.
Yeah.
So there were these ideas that, like, if you abstained from sex in the first, like, year or two of marriage, I think it was 5 years maybe, some number of years of marriage, that after that time frame, if you had abstained, that you wouldn't pass along syphilis, which is absolutely untrue. that does
No.
nothing except makes the first couple of years of your marriage very frustrating. Um, and
Oh, so sad.
syphilis exists in 4 stages. And I'm clicking on the link, so I make sure I get this right. Please
And
go
they're not
to
good.
the link.
A little bit of, STI. I can tell you about my STI education at a Catholic school later if you're
Oh
interested.
boy, I
It
bet
was
that was
pretty.
similar to what Florence got, probably.
I think it's like a little better because like we at least knew what they were.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah. Anyway, go
Uh,
ahead.
So I'm at the so according to the CDC, so the Center of Disease Control, there are 4 stages. The primary stage is you may notice sores in various places where syphilis entered the body.
Mm,
So you can extrapolate where that might be.
mm-hmm,
And they don't always hurt, but they're there. And
mm-hmm.
they always heal no matter what you do. But that
Okay.
doesn't mean that your syphilis has gone away if it heals. That just means the sore healed.
Okay.
And then there is a second stage, which involves much more intense rashes, and that can happen all over your body.
Oh.
And the rashes won't itch, but they will have other symptoms like fever, swollen lymph glands, sore throat, hair loss, weight loss, muscle aches, fatigue, stuff like that. This is the stage when people usually enter treatment because they're like, oh, I'm sick.
Right.
But at this point, there is a sort of intermediary stage called the latent stage that it will enter at that point where you have no symptoms, but you can still pass it along. I bet our listeners didn't know they were getting sex ed today, but this is important for understanding Florence's story.
It's always a good time to get sex ed. This is actually really important to know. Syphilis is still out there.
Yes,
Watch
it is.
out. Yeah.
Wear a condom. Or whatever works for you.
Yes.
Let's see. And then there is what's called the tertiary stage. So I say 4 stages, but latent stage is one of the stages. So tertiary stage, which not everybody gets, but this is the part where this is all like the famous symptoms. So like changes to your mental state, severe headache, changes to your vision, hearing loss, tinnitus, vertigo, those sorts of things. When people say syphilis, they're usually thinking about tertiary stage stuff. So she got syphilis, but she is a wealthy woman, or she's descended from a wealthy person. So she would have gotten treatment, which would have included mercury and arsenic.
Did that help at all?
No, it did not.
Did that help at all? Why did people keep doing that? Why they were like, it's gonna work this time? You know, like every time they ate mercury and arsenic, poison. Every time they ate poison, did people? Seriously, I don't understand how. I'm sure there's some great books about this. But why did people do this? I don't understand. It frustrates me so much.
An important thing to know about mercury is that mercury poisoning can cause tinnitus as well. And for those who might not be aware, tinnitus is when you get like ringing in your ears. So like Beethoven very famously had tinnitus, very severe tinnitus. And that's, relevant to this story.
Yeah, because it's a story about sound.
Yes.
And hearing and singing. Yeah.
So she moved to Philly. Her relationship with Frank quickly deteriorated. Shocker. And because of Frank, she thought that she was written out of the will of her father's will. But that's actually not the case. Her father wrote her husband out of the will. But she was not written out of the will. But she didn't know that because her dad wasn't that type to like.
He didn't like let her know.
No.
She also didn't ask.
I mean, God, I don't know if she asked or not. She doesn't seem like the type that would be afraid to say something.
That's a good point. I think we should blame the dad. I agree. I'm on her side always.
Yes, I'm always on Florence Foster Jenkins' side 100% of the time. So he was written out. She wasn't. And around this time, Florence Foster Jenkins later on would claim that she divorced her husband. There
Okay.
is no evidence of this.
All right.
But nonetheless, they were separated. She enrolled in a 2-year piano course at the Academy of Music, taught by the legendary Richard Zekver. I'm going to go with
Okay.
Zekver. And newspapers reported her to be at the top of her class and graduating with honors.
So was she was good at the piano?
Presumably, like, we have no
Presumably.
recordings, but like,
Interesting.
you don't. And also, like, to be at the top of her class, like, there was like sight singing and
Yeah.
like oral training involved in this. So like, and this is from the newspaper. This isn't from her. Like, this is like in the
Right.
Inquirer.
It's
It
not from the
lists.
school either. Like her dad, like let's say like in an alternative universe, her dad wanted to pretend like she wanted to pretend like she was really good at the piano. You could pay a lot of people off to pretend like somebody's good at the piano, but I imagine that would be a large scheme that I think is probably beyond the scope of this situation.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, the book makes the point of like, maybe she actually was okay at singing at some point because she clearly passed all this like oral skills training. But I'll
Interesting.
tell you what,
Yeah.
I have a degree in music, and to get that degree, I had to do oral skills, which included sight singing, piano, like certain like baseline piano skills, and what was the last one? Oh, dictation.
Mm.
Let me tell you which of those 3 things I can do today. I can sight sing, kind of.
Uh-huh.
Ben sits next to me regularly. You can ask him how I am at sight singing. He'll probably give that face where he doesn't want to say something mean about me.
Oh my goodness. It's very easy to, although Ben is a very trusting person. He trusts a lot in people's ability to sight sing at shape note things, and really my thing is I'm just following whatever he's doing. I'm just going
100%. That's what I do.
1 millisecond out of whatever he just said.
And here's the thing, he's so
because
nice.
I have no idea how to do it.
He's so nice that he like knows people do this, and he just it's like, yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great.
So good. I'm trying, Ben. I'm trying.
A side thing, when he was a younger man, a boy, shall we say, he was 14. He was trying to teach me the background part for a performance we were doing. We went to summer camp together as children, and I was not gifted at matching pitch. I remain not gifted at it. This is a skill I have learned.
Yep.
And he was getting increasingly frustrated with me, and he was 14. And I have this very vivid memory of him like just like putting his head on the piano and sighing dramatically.
That's so funny. Oh my goodness. Sorry, that's a very funny image. Yeah,
he is more polite now. Anyway, so piano, Florence Foster Jenkins.
Yes.
Presumably good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that she could have been a mediocre singer and still done well, because like sight singing is about hitting the right note. It's not about
Absolutely.
And it's not about sounding good. And also, it is very possible to be really deep in things when you're in school, and then the minute you don't have to do it anymore, it just flies out of your head, like my piano skills. So
definitely, same.
I'm still convinced that I'm past piano proficiency via divine intervention. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben says that he can fake at playing the piano
he can
well.
Play the piano.
Right. That's when people say that, I was like, Ben, that means that you play the piano.
Yeah.
That means you know how to, like, I can fake it. You can't, I played the piano for 8 years. I literally cannot. I would not know where to put my fingers.
So I will say, I get what he's saying. Like, he's not out here playing concerti. But anyway, so.
But still.
Yes. But that's probably where she was, I would guess, with her singing. The author suggests that she must have had some skill there to pass. I say, as someone who has a degree in music, you don't need skill. You need to be able to fake it for long enough to pass your exam.
Got it.
So she apparently did well. She performed in 1889 at the Zangerfest and other concerts in the area. This is the Philadelphia area. And she also sang at some of these Songfests, and the critics reported that she was too nervous to perform well.
Not a good start.
Not a good start, but they also said she was an artist of great promise. So to me, this suggests that she didn't sound particularly good. However, she did, she didn't do terribly.
Okay.
And to be fair, when you listen to someone who's not doing well, but they're clearly nervous, you can hear the difference.
Yeah, that's true.
But she definitely wasn't killing it.
Right.
Around this time, she got an arm injury, which ended her aspirations as a pianist. We don't know what this injury was. It's heavily implied in various places that it might have been a injury from her syphilis. We don't know. What we do know is she cannot any longer play the piano.
Yeah.
And at that point, she got by in Philadelphia by teaching piano lessons. But her parents, eventually, she gets closer with them again. She's like vacationing with them in fashionable places like Newport, Rhode Island.
Oh, very nice.
Yes. But she's in Newport, which says something, but they weren't staying in a cottage. They were staying at the casino.
Okay.
The cottages are not cottages, for those who are listening. Cottages are these absolutely bonkers mansions. Like, I don't know if you've seen them, Issa. They are off the chain.
I have. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
The breakers.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's a disgusting show of wealth.
I think
it's very beautiful.
That's the Vanderbilts, right? The breakers of the Vanderbilts. I just remember the breakers. There is literally platinum on the wall, like as wallpaper. Platinum, hammered platinum.
Yeah, yeah.
They wanted silver, but silver would tarnish, so they used platinum. So
it's a very interesting, very, very interesting time. One day, when we do more Gilded Age stuff.
Because we haven't done enough Gilded Age.
Because we haven't done enough Gilded Age stuff, because this hasn't become the Gilded Age podcast. We could talk about Candace Wheeler and the interior, the great ladies, the great dames of interior design history.
Someday when we're rich and famous and I can quit my job, we can just go to Rhode Island and see the breakers.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So please, this is a great time to say, please subscribe to our Patreon. Tell all your friends.
Yes, so we can go to the breakers. Maybe rent a cottage.
That would be.
That's what we'll do with all of our.
I went to a party at a cottage. You can rent the cottages for parties now. And I was at a tourism conference, and it was so fun. It was so great.
I mean, I can imagine that would have to be fun. Like, now that we have them, we can do something.
Also,
fun
like
with them.
Tour guides, heavy drinkers. Just gonna put it out there. We know how to have a good time.
But have you ever been on like a drunk tour? Will you guys do drunk history tours?
No, because I think that would be weird. Like, I could see doing a tour, but there's legal issues, like if somebody hurt themselves, and also the tour guide would never be drunk in that situation.
Sure.
So anyway, we're doing great.
Maintaining professionalism. I love it.
So the point is that Florence Foster Jenkins is rich enough to be in Newport, not rich enough to be like the Astors. Just to put her in the sort of like Gilded Age, like sort of deal.
Totally. Got it.
1900, she moved to New York City with her mother. 1909, her father died. And even though he was a lawyer, he left an absolute mess of his will. Because every time...
It sounds like he dropped the ball a number of times already.
Oh, he really did. So every time he got sick or like traveled or something, he would rewrite his will. And the most recent will, nobody could find it. And I mean, they looked for ages and they could not find the silly thing. And so they ended up using an older one, and there were all these lawsuits with the cousins of Florence and so on and so forth. I frankly don't think is particularly important. What's important is that it was very tangled, and she did get quite a bit of money out of it in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So she is well healed at this point.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's doing.
Did the arsenic work?
No. She gets very involved in clubs in New York City.
Okay.
Which was a thing that women of a certain social class did. And she became the director of music of the, I'm going to try really hard to pronounce this. You might know how to say this. I don't.
Is this French?
No, I think it's Greek.
Oh, okay.
Euterpe? Here, that's definitely wrong. I'm going to write it in the chat.
Oh boy.
Let's get your opinion.
I definitely don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to say Euterpe, but that's wrong.
It's spelled Euterpe for your friends at home.
I do not know.
Well, she becomes the director of music of that club.
Got it.
And she was in charge of putting on elaborate musicales. And I have to admit, I didn't...
Musicale at the Euterpe.
Yeah, so I have to admit, I didn't know that musicale was actually a thing. I thought it was a weird way to say musical.
Okay.
Done in Wet Hot American Summer. So I was really delighted to find out a musicale is actually a thing.
That's so awesome. A musicale. We're going to see musicale on the weekend.
Yes.
That's what I imagine.
And so
the weekends are like a new thing.
Right. So they did musicales before, but when she took over, they got super elaborate. Because that's Florence Foster Jenkins does nothing by half. So these would be held...
Certainly not.
No. These would be held at the Waldorf Astoria. And in 1909, she's running one of these musicales, and she looks out into the audience because I think this is actually kind of funny. This was typical of the time where the person who was running the thing would be presented a gift. And because these are all like very wealthy ladies, it would be like a fancy piece of jewelry or something. So she's she's on stage, I believe, receiving one of these gifts. Nonetheless, she's on stage. And she looks out into the audience and sees a smile that she found disarming.
Oh, no.
And that person with the disarming smile was Sinclair Bayfield. And they met, and it would start a lifelong romance.
Oh, okay.
It turned into a common law marriage. So Bayfield was an actor from England. He was related to an earl, but he was related through an illegitimate line, so he wasn't getting any money or anything. So he had to fend for himself. He left England, went to New Zealand, where he worked as a sailor, a farmer, a laborer, and then began to work as an actor, at which point he traveled around the world, ending up at New York City and meeting Florence Foster Jenkins. I like this guy because I too am a person who just sort of does what needs to be done. Like the current job I'm in, I got because I was willing to like hawk tickets on the street. So I respect that.
Yeah.
So he meets Florence Foster Jenkins, but he continues to work. He's a working actor. So he goes around the country. And so as a result, we have a lot of letters from that time. Not as many as you'd expect, but we do have a number of letters that were the ones we have were presented as evidence later on to prove their relationship.
Oh, no. Okay.
And they did refer to each other as husband and wife. They had a small private ceremony for themselves with a handful of witnesses, but they did not have a legal status. And he kept working, but more and more his focus became the career of Florence Foster Jenkins.
Okay.
And she basically paid for his existence. He lived in his own apartment, which, mad props, by the way. I am super pro anybody who like wants to have a non-traditional arrangement in their relationship.
Absolutely. Is he... But they were like, was this like an equitable relationship, or was she just kind of, no, she just kind of paying him for stuff?
Based on what I read, I think he genuinely loved her.
Okay.
And genuinely cared about her. And I think the same went the other direction. But he was a working actor, and she was an heiress. So there's going to be an inherent lack of balance in that relationship. However, his actions speak pretty loudly. As we'll see. And he was a huge proponent of her for the rest of her life.
Nice.
So in a way that I think would have been obvious to other people if it wasn't genuine. And I think we would have heard something if that was the case. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was genuine. Maybe I'm just a romantic, but I'd like to think it was genuine.
He looks like a nice guy. I don't know.
Yeah. Hi, Pikachu.
Oh, here he is. Here's the man. He's been screaming.
Yeah, I heard him.
I don't know what Pikachu.
For. You can't hear me, but that's okay.
See that? Did you see that face?
Yes, I did.
Oh
was
my
a very good
God.
face. She joined lots of clubs, not just the one we can't pronounce.
Yep.
And she was all about creating musicales and another thing called tableau vivant,
Okay.
which are static images of famous scenes or paintings.
Like when the ladies just stand there like this.
Yeah, like one Grecian urn.
Yeah. Yes. I was a Grecian. I always imagine them being very Grecian.
Or if you've seen Gilmore Girls, weirdly, there's an episode where they do this.
That's so weird.
It's so weird.
That's too much. That's too much.
But if for any listeners at home, if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, that episode where they did like the living paintings, that's a tableau vivant.
Those things are weird.
And unsurprisingly, she would always cast herself as the main character in the final tableau.
Oh my goodness! I wish I could see that.
There are some pictures that exist. I can send them to you later.
There are pictures. No, but I want video. I want video.
We are lacking that, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Like, did she? I can imagine. I feel bad at saying this already, but I can imagine Florence Foster Jenkins in a living painting moving a lot and then saying that she didn't.
I mean, that sounds right.
I love it.
There's a movie that I was going to talk about later, and I'm not going to talk about it extensively now, but Meryl Streep plays Florence Foster Jenkins. And for all of my criticisms of that movie, which are extensive, none of them are about any of the actors, and certainly not Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
So there is a lovely scene in the beginning where she is doing this, and it's very humorous and well done.
Awesome.
So she loved wearing elaborate costumes. Very famously, she cast herself as the Angel of Inspiration in a Stephen Foster painting.
Fantastic.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Stephen Foster wasn't the artist. Stephen Foster is a musician, and the art is called Stephen Foster and the Angel of Inspiration.
Fantastic. She's like, I am your muse.
There is a picture of her in that costume that was passed around quite a bit for chuckles in the time frame. Which honestly I think is not fair. Like, she was a little bit of a, like, for the time.
Yeah.
Her shape was not, shall we say, a traditionally attractive shape for the time. Like, she was a little broader up top, like with her shoulders and stuff. Like, she didn't have that hourglass.
It's not
look.
a flattering outfit, though. I will say it was.
Did you look it up?
I think I see it. I mean, it's the
probably
one
do with the wings.
It's the one with the wings.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great costume. The costume's not working for her.
No, it's really not. And,
it's not at the level yet where she actually is doing. Where the camp is working for her. There is another that it's much better.
Yes.
I don't know if she's trying to be. There's one with like lace and stuff. That's like the third thing that comes up when you search Florence Foster.
We'll
Jenkins.
post all this in the Instagram.
Yeah.
When this comes out. So anyway. she loved costumes.
Yeah.
And she would have definitely been a cosplayer if she lived today.
Yes.
And around this time she starts taking voice lessons, which makes sense. Like, she loved music. She loved it, loved it. And I think it must have been so hard to have put all this work in and not be able to participate in it in that way. So she starts getting singing lessons, and she starts giving recitals at her clubs at the age of 44. And she actually started her own club called the Verdi Club, which was, as you might imagine, in honor of Verdi's music. And she was called the Singing President. She was the president of the Verdi Club.
Because she founded the clubs that people listen to her sing.
Well, it wasn't just that. But that happened as well.
Yeah, but that helps. I feel like if we know anything about Florence Foster Jenkins, maybe this is too early of a judgment, but I feel like she probably wanted to do that.
So at the height of the Verdi Club, there were 400 members. So it was definitely very successful.
Nice.
And I want to take a moment to make a note about how the female voice works as you age. So everyone knows about people who, how am I going to say this? People who's have XY chromosomes. We're going to go there. Have XY chromosomes. Famously, their voices crack and change a lot in the teen years.
Yes.
And we know a lot about that. What is less talked about is people with XX chromosomes who don't, in some time in their adulthood, go through gender therapy or something. So these are like cis women predominantly. I don't know if this happens to trans women. I imagine it does. I can't imagine it wouldn't. But anyway,
that your voice would change
when
at
in
a certain
your
point?
older adulthood, starting in your 40s.
Starting in your 40s.
Yeah. So menopause deepens and changes the voice.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of science that I don't understand.
Yep.
But needless to say, middle age is a time of change.
Yes.
For the voice, for a woman, for a cis woman, and I can't imagine not for I don't know, but
Pikachu's voice will never change though. It will always
Pikachu
scream.
is always as. I will say, at the age of 36, turning 37 in just a couple months, I'm already seeing some of this. Like just in singing in my car, like my voice is definitely acting different, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little in denial about it.
It happens. It happens as our voices change so much,
right? And
the
it's
voice science is wild.
Yeah, and even knowing that this is a normal thing that happens, it's you get so used to how your voice works, and now it's changing and it's weird. So
it's
my point is
odd.
she was definitely experiencing this.
Sure. Yes.
The Verity Club, part of the excuse for its founding is that the recitals they put on would support the Red Cross during World War I. And she would always take part in the recitals because, of course, she did. But she would do it alongside other performers, many of whom were young, talented musicians at the start of their careers. She would also feature music from living composers from all over the world.
Nice.
So it wasn't just Verity
Forerunner.
or Mozart or whatever. She was obsessed with music from Spain. And she found all these people, and part of it I think was because they were cheaper, but like she elevated a lot of artists who this was like the performing at the Verity Club was like the beginning of the career for a lot of artists.
Cool.
The reviews of her recitals, of her singing in the recitals, are ambiguous. They would say things like, "She's never sung better." Or there was a round of enthusiastic applause. So lots of things that don't say anything.
Sure.
But these recitals were exclusively attended by her upper crust friends. And while they came to be known about outside that circle, the people who came were still friendly to her.
Okay.
So a common thing was to cover up their laughter with bouts of applause in the middle of her arias.
Oh my goodness.
That she would take as a compliment, which is part of why I call her Tommy Wiseau, because I've always wondered with The Room if Tommy Wiseau, how much he understands is going on.
We don't know. That's the thing. We just don't know.
And that's the thing with Florence Foster Jenkins.
You could argue either way.
Right.
You could argue either way. And on some deep level, both of them have to know that what they're producing is not good. But when it comes to that level of like, you really have to believe it also to go through that far with it all. But I feel like it's a source of much debate within room enthusiasts.
Yes. Yeah, and
I'm sure Florence Foster Jenkins as well. Yes,
Florence Foster Florence Foster Jenkins.
The Jenkinites.
Jenkinites. Yes. Definitely disagree on this too.
I'm sure.
And so did she know how bad she was? She signed autographs when people asked, and she seemed to think she was good, but at the same time, she refused to open her concerts up to the general public.
Yeah.
And she personally handled ticket distribution and refused to give them to music critics outside of the ones who had shown their loyalty already.
That's work.
Yeah. A side note, Cole Porter never missed a concert.
Amazing. I bet
I'm looking at you through a leaf.
Sorry.
Right now.
Oh no. That's a straight leaf. It's a straight up leaf. I wonder, like, this is the thing, like, I wonder if there's something in the stage, in her stage presence. Because I can imagine a woman
definitely.
with this confidence and this love of costume and performance Like, I bet the concert, I bet it was something to behold.
Yeah, and she had
You
lots
know?
of costumes. There is one video recording of her, but it's not a very good recording. It's like kind of taken off from the side, but it shows her like throwing like I think it's like petals into the crowd. Like she's having a great time.
Yeah.
And you can see that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she had a variety of accompanists over the years, the most famous being Cosme McMoon. He was an Irish-Mexican pianist.
Oh.
And he's the one who is in that recording that I shared.
Oh, wow. And he's really good.
He's really good, and he's very good at painting her in the best possible light. Like I said, he's changing keys, he's changing tempi. But as she ages and as she goes on, she becomes increasingly obsessed with being a coloratura soprano, which she just simply is not.
Man.
Like, just listening to her voice, I am not a expert in Fox. I am, but she is definitely not a coloratura soprano, especially when she takes those recordings.
Yeah.
But she becomes obsessed with it, and she would brag.
Pikachu. Stop.
So, like Pikachu right now,
she would brag. About him.
No, it's fine. She would brag about what high notes she could hit. To the extent, hi Pikachu.
Here he is. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab his brush. He needs to be brushed. Hold on 1 second. Let me grab it.
No worries.
That'll shut him up for a little bit. Pikachu, look, come here, baby. Come here.
Aw, Pikachu, so excited.
Yeah, he loves this. He loves to be brushed. He loves it. And he loves it because, especially right now, I've never seen, and I'm sure I've never seen one cat shed more ever.
It is impressive. World. I have 4 cats.
Yes.
So there is a lot of cat hair in my house. I'd say that the amount of cat hair in your apartment is equivalent.
It is at least equivalent. And right now the situation is pretty bad because I will have to say it's that time of year. Oh my God. But he's never shed. It's never been this bad before. We've been together since 2020. This is the 3rd year. Our 3rd springtime.
I didn't realize Pikachu is a lockdown kitty.
He's a lockdown kitty. Oh yeah. This is a lockdown. Whoa, Pikachu. It's a lockdown kitty. He is my ex's neighbor's porch cat.
That's very West Philly.
Oh no, yes, it is a very West Philly way of getting a cat.
I'm glad that you fixed the fact that I was in a tree again, but yes. I was really excited when you finished your story to say, I can't make love to a bush. So there we go.
There you go. And you can't make a podcast with a bush.
No. So okay. Florence Foster Jenkins obsessed with how high of a note she could hit. And to the extent that she was in a car accident and she screamed. And when she went home, she went to her piano and figured out what note supposedly she had screamed. And she claims it was a high E.
No.
E is an elephant.
Florence. That being said, I love the idea of like hearing her tell that story. Like, I was in a terrible car crash. And I screamed so high.
I imagine her with a transatlantic accent.
Right? And then I got home. And it was, if you can't believe it, it was a high E.
I spoke with a high E. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
I am so most women lose their range, but I seem to be gaining
but
it.
Not me. I can imagine. Also, how's there when you scream? I've never seen someone scream and automatically go into like the whistle range, like automatically like get into a car crash and pull out a Mariah Carey, like I've never. I love that, but I love that Florence did apparently.
Yeah, apparently she did.
I think we should believe women.
Yes, we should believe women.
We should believe women,
especially Florence Foster Jenkins.
Especially Florence Foster Jenkins. Yes.
So she continued with a variety of difficult repertoire, including new works that were written for her. I love this.
Amazing.
That composers wrote for Florence Foster Jenkins.
And I'm sure she paid them hopefully well.
Well, sure. Yeah, no, she was very much a patron of the arts, and it's part of, I
Yes,
think,
that,
why
and
people
that's why people
are so
loved her.
fond of her.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
as ridiculous as she may or may not have been, we'll talk about that later.
yeah,
She she put her money where her mouth was, so
yeah,
to speak.
yeah.
But she really loved Spanish music, as I said earlier, to the extent that she would actually dress up as Carmen, like Carmen the opera,
Yes,
complete
yes.
with castanets,
Wow,
to do arias from Carmen.
wow.
1930s, some things change in her relationship with Sinclair.
Mm-hmm.
Sinclair remains quote unquote married to her, but also takes up with a woman named Kathleen Weatherly.
Mm.
And this is one of these things that it's convenient that he didn't live with Florence Foster Jenkins.
Mm.
But in spite of this, he was singularly devoted to Florence Foster Jenkins. Like, he put her first.
Okay.
And there is, I will say, I don't know how true this is. There's some rumor that he and
Okay.
Florence Foster Jenkins's relationship may have been not involving sex, like a non-sexual relationship,
Sure.
because she would not have wanted to pass along her syphilis, which would suggest that he may have taken up with Weatherly because he, wanted to have sex.
You want to get it, yeah.
But that is speculation.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. There's some question as to whether Florence Foster Jenkins knew about Kathleen Weatherly.
Yeah.
She once mentioned to a friend that she knew of an English person who was going back to Europe to help with World War II. And the friend referred to the person as a he, and Florence Foster Jenkins corrected her and said she was a woman, and that she, being Florence Foster Jenkins, wouldn't be mad if her ship sank on the way. Which would suggest that she knew what was going on there.
Sure.
And it's at this point, too, that she starts making recordings for personal distribution. But word got out about these recordings, and anybody could write into the recording studio and purchase one. They cost $2.50.
Okay.
Which was like $50
Yeah.
today.
Right.
So not a small amount, but if you are really dedicated to camp,
you could
worth the investment if you have that kind of coin.
Yeah.
And that catapulted her popularity outside of the elite social circles in New York City.
Oh, okay.
In the same way that The Room is very popular. I keep referring to that because I don't think there is a better, like, modern example of this.
It's a definitely.
She finally gave in to public pressure and did a concert at Carnegie Hall at the age of 76, which is super impressive. Regardless of how she's saying, like, just producing sounds that are somewhere in the neighborhood of these arias at the age of 76 is incredibly impressive.
It's Like, it's I love it. I love that she did that.
Yeah. So this was October 25th, 1944. And for the first time in her life, she couldn't control ticket distribution. So this was the first time she didn't have a inherently friendly audience to sing for.
Oh boy. But didn't they know what they were getting into?
Yes. That's why they bought the ticket.
Yeah.
I have this quote from McMoon, and I am not entirely sure why I put it at this point in my notes.
Sure.
But it speaks to what you were talking about her stage presence. So McMoon, again, is her accompanist. This is a quote from him. When she sang, "If my silhouette does not convince you yet, my figure surely will," from Adele's aria in Die Fledermaus, she put her hands righteously to her hips and went into a circular dance that was the most ludicrous thing I have ever seen and created a pandemonium in the place. One famous actress had to be carried out of her box because she became so hysterical.
That is awesome. Yes.
So, unfortunately, this is the first time music critics got the chance to review her, and they did it.
They're no fun.
So, and they're a trip. So this is from the New York Sun. Mrs. Jenkins has a great voice. In fact, she can sing everything except notes. Much of her singing was hopelessly lacking in a semblance of pitch, but the further a note was from its proper elevation, the more the audience laughed and applauded.
That's awesome. That's so great. Oh my gosh. Oh, work. That's all I can
Yep.
say. Yeah.
And
She knew how to do it.
the New York Post was even less charitable than that, if you can imagine.
Mhm.
Lady Florence indulged last night in one of the weirdest mass jokes New York has ever seen.
I love this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I really sorry. Oh, please continue.
No, I wanted to give you the chance to have your full
Yeah.
full reaction to those. Those are pretty excellent.
I love this image. Oh my gosh. Yes.
But unfortunately, 5 days later, this was she ended her life at the top. 5 days later, she had a heart attack at a music store and died a
Oh.
month later,
Music
November
killed
26th,
her.
1944. There's some suggestion, like there are some people out there who claim it was like the bad reviews. I do not think that is the case
No.
because I mean, in part because I just don't want it to be. And
Yeah.
and I don't know, that
Yeah.
just seems weird. Like she was 76.
She was 76. She still had syphilis because you
She had
don't
syphilis and
not have
it's
syphilis.
not, and I'm sure she ate a fatty diet. Like she was
I'm
wealthy at a
yeah.
time when that was popular. Like
Yeah.
it's not a
I
bananas thing that she might have had a heart
no.
attack.
No.
But nonetheless, she has a heart attack. She was buried with her father in Wilkes-Barre.
Mhm.
And there's also a huge mess with her will as well because she had intended to leave everything to Sinclair,
Mhm.
but they weren't legally married, and she had a certain distrust of lawyers because of her tumultuous relationship with her father. And so
Oh.
she didn't have things all tick-tack and tied in the way she should have.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
whole thing.
Okay.
But he gets something in the end, so he's okay.
All right.
He honestly, he wasn't looking for her wealth. I think he just wanted like his apartment paid for, because he had
Sure.
given his career to her.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to end on a quote from her that I think is just beautiful. She once said to a friend, "People may say I can't sing, but no one can ever say I didn't sing."
You're right there. You're right there, Florence. You
Yes.
sang that. She sang that. Yes, she did.
Love
I
that.
love that. That's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
And
That is what
like,
confidence can do for you. And money.
right.
But also,
So speaking of which, it's so that's why she was able to do any of this, right? Because she was rich.
right. Right.
Not everyone can be a Florence Foster Jenkins. But today, you can. Because of YouTube, TikTok, whatever. Think of how many Florence Foster Jenkins we've seen.
It's true.
Like, I don't
It's
know,
true.
you're a little younger than me. I don't know if you remember Star Wars Kid, who was,
No.
he was a meme. And unfortunately, he took it really hard being a meme. But he was like just a random kid who took a video of himself doing like a Darth Maul-esque like Star Wars scene with like a broom. And I think it's fantastic. Like, I think it's super cool, and I'm really sad that he felt badly about the attention he got.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many examples in meme
Right.
culture we can think of people who did something a little weird. I keep bringing up Tommy Wiseau, the I'm blue guy. My memes are so old. I'm sorry. These are memes from when I was in college.
Yeah. But yeah, but they're still relevant. People still pay attention to them. I'm worried because I don't know. I feel like I can't pull any memes out of the thin air.
Yeah, but we've seen these people like on TikTok or whatever who their skill is questionable, but their confidence is not. And I think that's just beautiful because you know what? Number one, this is a thing as someone who's taught music, we always say to kids, and it's true, is just getting up on that stage is an incredibly brave thing to do. No matter what comes out from it.
True.
It's
so true.
It's so brave.
Yeah.
And also, like, bravo to New York City society for encouraging her.
Yeah.
Like,
Honestly, yeah.
like that's so
Because
cool.
Because any rich person can like throw a concert for themselves, but it takes something to throw a dreadful concert in terms of your singing ability and have everybody laugh like clapping. Like
Yes, in
like people
Carnegie
aren't
Hall.
in Carnegie Hall, like
Like,
the
she
fact that everybody
filled
was
Carnegie
clapping.
Hall. And also
Yeah.
just the years and years and years of these smaller concerts that,
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't have
People would
happened if
go to.
people didn't support her.
Right.
And she was having a great time.
I'm
Like,
sure she taught them something I'm sure what it was like she was teaching them something about performance. Like I feel
oh
like
yeah.
people like Cole Porter were watching her being like, this is how you have a stage presence. Like she had she had some sort of it factor,
Oh
it
yeah.
sounds like.
She
That
had to.
she had that she would have been like a lip sync icon of today,
Oh yeah.
I think.
She would have
Yeah.
been something. Or she might have been
Yeah.
one of those people who got like eliminated on the first round of The Voice but like became a meme. You know?
Right.
Like
Right.
she
Right.
I love Florence Foster Jenkins. I actually
Trailblazer.
texted Ben when I was doing these notes and I said studying Florence Foster Jenkins fills me both with like what did I say? So I can get this right. It's like filled I am filled both with delight and dread.
Yeah. A
Because
curious mixture. Yes.
yeah, because like I don't want to be her. And any creator, I think, has that moment of am I Florence Foster Jenkins?
Oh my goodness. I don't think as as much as I love Florence Foster Jenkins, I don't think either of us are quite on her level.
I mean, any of us could
I
hope
don't
to
either.
be.
I don't think either. But saying that, what I say, I don't think either of us are doing what she did. I think we, I think we're. If everybody, I don't think everybody is laughing behind their backs, being like.
But you know what? If they are, if you are laughing behind our backs, go ahead and tell your friends.
Yes.
Join
If you're
our
because they're
Patreon.
having because you know what, if even maybe we are Florence Foster Jenkins, and you know what, people are having fun, and that's what matters.
Exactly. So thank you so much for listening to D-Listers of History. If you enjoyed yourself, be sure to subscribe and drop us a review on whatever platform you listen on. Reviews make a massive difference. A huge thank you to April Keys for the use of the song Misfit from her album Mountain View. You can find her on all the various social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I've been doing the TikTok thing.
Yes.
I had a video go unsettlingly viral, and then the one after it was shown to 200 people.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that'll
I
happen.
don't understand what is happening.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah,
consistently. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because now that you have the buzz, you'll it's like never mind. It's a weird time.
It's a weird
TikTok
time to be
weird.
alive.
Yeah.
So we're on all those social media platforms as D-Listers of History with no hyphens. A big shout out to the folks supporting us on Patreon. If you want to support us and get access to all sorts of exclusive content like D-List Drabbles, become a patron of this program like Labor John. Labor John is now a patron.
Thanks, Labor John. Wow.
Yeah. And you also, Labor John is at the level where you get stickers. So, oh
my gosh,
just saying.
Yes. I don't actually have any stickers yet.
I need to give you the stickers. I have
Ooh.
stickers that are bookmarked for you.
Yes. What do they say?
There's one that's our logo. This is D-Listers of History.
Awesome.
There's one with a very strange looking animal in like a flower hat that says, just because they're queer doesn't mean they're not a cult leader.
Love it.
And there's one that is the seal of the President of the United States that says a little genocidal on it.
I love this. I can imagine that like in the way that I imagine that Fundy Fridays is an inspiration to us all in terms of t-shirt game. Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
I was just watching one of their videos right before coming on, and I was like, I am really overdue for a Fundy Fridays t-shirt.
Yeah, I actually, this is a terrible time to be doing this. I just got a t-shirt from a favorite shop called Nerdy Kepi, and they just put out a line called the Fagala line. Because Fagala is Yiddish for like gay, traditionally a gay man. But my name is Fega, and then how you like minimize it, like minimize makes it sound bad. Like like the cutify it is that illa at the end. So figula is a way of just saying like a cutesy, like, oh, figula, but it also means gay. And so it's just like, I feel like they've made this line for me personally. So I have purchased a t-shirt.
Awesome.
Big blah, 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 we already did that part. All of this and more can be found on our website, deliciousofhistory.com. Again, no hyphens. Just put it together and have a great time. I forgot to mention this when I was recording with Issa. Our episodes come out on the first and third Mondays of each month. So our next episode will be coming out June 5th. And now for a episode relevant audio drop.
Come to your mama teeny favor, sweetie pie. I need you to kill your friend Sarastro, here's a knife. Sorry, when I think of stabbing, I start laughing. Ha ha ha